Welcome to No Entry Level. This is a podcast about hiring, managing, and sometimes firing entry-level employees and how everything is changing in the age of AI when it comes to hiring technology employees. And we explore what it takes to build or break great early career talent. You'll laugh, you'll cry, and you'll never look at your entry-level employees the same again. So I'm your host, Jeremy Smith. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Pegasix. And with me today is Ira Zlotowitz, the founder and CEO of GPARENCY, a technology-driven commercial real estate mortgage assurance brokerage with the mission to democratize access to commercial real estate financing. So Ira, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it, Jeremy.
Absolutely. And so if you want to maybe give a little bit of background on yourself, the company in particular.
So GPARENCY is mortgage assurance. All human. When someone is looking for financing for commercial real estate, they can either go direct or they can use a broker. 80% go direct, 20% use a broker. But all 100% feel when they close, they left money on the table. They didn't get the best deal. Something could have been different. And when I asked them, so why didn't you do something for it? He goes, Ira, listen, it was close enough. It's not worth it. It's not worth switching. So that's the problem statement. GPARENCY is here to solve that problem. For $4,500, I underwrite, shop your deal, and work with you and negotiate until you sign your term sheet. I have no ulterior motive. Fixed fee, $4,500, and I work the deal. So GPARENCY was born because my previous company called Eastern Union was a conventional mortgage broker, number 10 in the country in dollar amount, 3 in transactions, doing $5 billion a year. And we knew the world was going to change, how technology and AI is going to change the industry. We got a venture capital offer about 4 years ago to spin off and build a Netflix of commercial real estate finance. At that time had a combination of this product combined with basically building like a digital mortgage broker. It was together. The world wasn't ready for it. It was too confusing. Right. So we recently just spun off all the tech of this, just like streaming a Netflix split from the mail. Yes. And now we opened up a company called Avery GPT. And we moved all the tech. So basically I described like Avery left GPARENCY and it took all the tech with it.
Exactly. And does GPARENCY leverage the Avery tech just like any other company would in your space?
And a company would. But at the same time, it's leveraging my 25 plus years of doing commercial brokerage and my relationships. So it's getting the best of all those worlds. Yeah. So what's interesting is for those in the audience that aren't as familiar with commercial real estate, when somebody's looking for a mortgage on commercial real estate, the client pays the fee, not the bank. Right. So they're going in eyes wide open, and the fee is tied to the loan amount typically. But many times the person doesn't need the full meal. They just want the shopping part. It wasn't an option. Yeah. Either go yourself or use a broker and pay the big fee. We created and said, hey, we'll just shop for you. So whether you go into a broker, we'll keep them in check. I'll create more competition. Whether you go direct, we'll bring you out new offers. And it's a $4,500 fee. So that's been going very well. The Avery is now where on the Avery front is on the tech side. So we're building all the tech to fully AI proof and automate. I call it, AI says automation intelligence. On the AI front, that's all the tech. And basically I'm building Avery to be. What's interesting about AI for commercial real estate and automations for commercial real estate from every other industry is that in every business, even in the same industry, they do things different. Commercial real estate is exactly the same one company to the next. The difference is, Jeremy, me and you started buying real estate. We may buy in Texas, someone else buys in a different state. We may buy big deals or small deals, but the steps are the same. So my idea with Avery is, why should somebody go ahead and have to build it themselves and pay for the money and then all the time? Why don't you take a monthly subscription to Avery, pay that on a monthly subscription, and you get access from your acquisition. Like hire Avery as another acquisition guy. Right. Avery is going to scale up your whole acquisition team. He'll have a pipeline tracker, put it onto your pipeline. He'll run some basic numbers. He'll follow up and nurture the deal. And then also when you want financing, if you want to do it yourself, Avery can help you out. That's the idea of the Avery event. So when I meet a client today and I say, how are you dealing with your financing? The person falls into one of 3 buckets. I want a full-fledged broker, go back to the old company. I want to tell myself, well, you know something? Even with the way I'm going, I just want to double check. Who can help me out to guarantee mortgage assurance? And that's the product there. So that we're using the technology. So that right now, GPARENCY is hiring salespeople, right, to sell the product. Yep. And Avery is spending the time to keep automating parts of the process so that the clients could access their deals and that they're using GPARENCY for. They could access the technology. So it's two ends of the spectrum. So Avery is the tech build out, and the sales build out is going to be on the human side. It's going to be on the GPARENCY side, and then connective tissue across that.
Gotcha. That makes complete sense. How long ago did you spin Avery out?
So Avery, it's actually, as the moving truck is in the middle of moving as we speak. It's moving everything out of. So right, but depending like when this is going live, sometime between December 15th and January 15th, everything will be moved over into the Avery. So Avery goes out and summarizes your news. Avery tells you what the rates are today. Avery has some tools. Avery does some training for you. So all those things in the process, some things are already there, but by January 15th, everything should be there. So it becomes very clear. GPARENCY has no tech connected to it, and Avery is all tech.
Gotcha. It's interesting as an aside. Putting aside that they are now or about to be two separate entities, the model you're describing reminds me of where QuickBooks has evolved over the past decade or so, where you can do it yourself, or you can, while you're doing it yourself, pull in actual tax experts to help you along or double check things or things like that. Now they don't have the full, well, that's not true. They do have the full service option as well, if you want it. And so, the model you're developing is very similar to that, which, like you said, makes a ton of sense for the space that you're in, to have the do it yourself, do it for me, or some sort of hybrid approach to it.
But the big key over here is that everyone has their way of doing things, and I don't want to be in a position where competing with it. Like, if you believe you should go yourself, then fine. But let me just double check for you. Do you think you should use a broker? Fine. I'm not telling you one way is the other. However you believe. But now at least you go eyes wide open, because if someone that has no ulterior motive, I get paid a fixed fee, I'm on your team to provide you value. And by the time we're done, you'll understand. You won't be, oh, I didn't realize the guy took advantage. No one's taking advantage anymore, because I know the business. I'm alongside you.
So as it relates to Avery, how many employees have gone with that, of the existing employees have gone with that entity, and what are sort of your hiring plans for it?
So Avery right now went probably, I think it's a total team of approximately 20, from the underwriting and back office, everything. What's interesting is that, many companies today, you talk about AI, I coined the thing. I made sure to be the first one to coin it, to go on my Twitter, and that, the line that AI is not replacing you. People using AI are replacing those that don't.
Yes.
And when you have a company of 20 people or 100 people, and you say, let's use AI and bring it down to 80, so I'm the other way around. The company should start hiring, but because we're using AI, each person go. So I'm in a situation where we're hiring slower because each person's right. So when I interview someone today, interesting, I start the conversation with somebody. What do you want to do? That's the first thing. I go from EOS. I want to do. If you don't want to do the role that I have don't have a job for you. So right off the bat, that's for the second. I said, what are your thoughts on AI? If the person doesn't naturally believe, I use it all the time. I think it's amazing to change the world. People can lose a job. I don't hire you.
Right.
So that's like 1-2 punch. And so I don't believe it. You can't work for a company in Avery that is embarking on telling owners that we will give you the best automation and best agents, best in class, and not believe that they need it.
That's funny. It's a very interesting and innovative approach that really shouldn't be innovative, but it is. And what I mean by that is, in the past, whenever, my personal history, or my individual professional history, is in strategic operations, essentially looking at how to scale companies. And what I found time after time is the most advanced tech companies, when you looked at how they did things, and they were out there selling companies, telling them, hey, you have to automate this, or use this SaaS software for that, use what we're doing, get rid of your old processes and technologies, stop being stuck in the past. But then when you would talk to them, that same innovative company who's trying to tell everybody to switch to their new age platform, and you'd say, how do you do your payroll? And they would say, well, we have 3 people in the back who write checks and send it out, or, they did not, it was a doctor heal thyself sort of situation, where they they believed in technology for everyone else, but when you looked at how they ran their company, legal, HR, finance, it was the same as Union Carbide. Like there was no difference there.
So I'm going to tell you, literally last week, I was talking to my partner. I said, this is crazy. We came from Eastern Union. It was the original company, Open GPARENCY. And we're showing in Avery how everyone could become AI proof and automated and streamlined. I said, you know what's crazy? Eastern is not fully automated in that. And we made a decision that we took the tech team, got the greatest tech team now. Okay. Took the tech team. And I said, if we're already going to build Avery for people, why are we not making sure that every aspect that we build, like, don't build it around what we think for the unit. Make sure they're. Now, I believe a lot of times my motto is live for today without sacrificing tomorrow, right? What happens if, God forbid, Avery doesn't work out, right? So whatever money's burnt, it's a shame and it didn't work out. We gave it our best. But can you imagine if it's not worked out and I'm not automated? At least if it doesn't work out,
Right.
the parent company's automated, So I said,
that's right.
Let me at least. And meanwhile, what's interesting? All of a sudden, the focus is so much clearer because there's a bunch of brokers now using it even better, that getting better, and it's like the minute we made that decision, in a week, the clarity we saw about how, oh my gosh, in Eastern Union, we have someone who's very talented, but they can't help in a certain area because they don't know how to write. But now that the write-ups are done automatically, then that person can help the structure for the deal differently. So we're finding that it was a game. It's like, imagine what's going to be in 3 months from now. The minute we had this, we had the clarity came through and said, hey, is that once we actually went to the Eastern team and we said, we're going to go ahead and use that team to automate you first, all of a sudden the clarity opened up a whole opportunity box because there was someone that was great in one area but had a limitation because they didn't have really right. And now if we automated the setups, then that person had to do so much more because that person's better at strategy. And then the person who's doing the setups says, I'm the writing up of deals. I shouldn't be doing that. There's other things I can help in the banking quotes. But and also I asked them, why didn't you bring it up? Because they thought I'm not going to think of ideas how to replace my job. And so it's interesting. But now that they know we're doing it anyway, and the job's not in jeopardy, a sense of relief. Wow, now I could ...
Yes. So that's interesting. So you found some internal, I wouldn't say resistance, but trepidation around AI because people at first thought, hey, if I help a little too much here, then I'll find myself out of a job.
Right. So I'll tell you, it wasn't really trepidation when I come up to them to work with me on it. It's the natural. You're not going to, you're naturally going to think about survival. You're not going to naturally think about replacement. However, I coach a lot of new people for jobs all the time, and I tell them, number one, if your resume doesn't say on it that I'm big with AI, and not only are you getting me, but you can get a supercharged version of me in their interview process, the person that's hiring is going to want to hire you.
Right.
So maybe I tell people in the office, I said, it's inevitable. If we figure out that we only need 3 people instead of 4, one person's going. You know who's for sure has the job? The person who thought of the idea how to get us to 4 to 3. So you want to be the driver because I'm sure keeping you, because I know you'll be the one guiding me from 3 to 2, or how we can use the team better. So people are starting to get that right now.
Yeah.
I think in all companies are starting to come together, but it is very scary how advanced AI is moving.
I like that perspective and approach too, which is, if it happens to take certain people's jobs, do you know whose job it isn't going to take? The person who brought this idea to me, right? That incentivizes, that approach that you're taking incentivizes people to think ahead and think of ways to make things more efficient and better, because they're like, if I bring this to him, I know at least I won't be losing my job. And it really encourages that. Yeah, that's a great approach. You talked about sort of mentoring and coaching, and speaking with sort of early career people. What are some of the gaps? Well, I guess on 2 sides. One, what are some of the gaps that you've seen, like as a pattern, repeating across various entry level, early career employees, or prospects? And what are some of the key things that you look for? One of them you talked about, obviously, being AI. They need to have a sort of coherent thesis and almost excitement around AI. But what are some of the other 1 or 2 or 3 factors that you screen for when looking for early career talent?
So first, I think it's across the board. That part didn't change. What you'd asked me the question a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. It's the same. But much more today, I I want to make sure that what they want to do matches what I have. Number one, I naturally always wanted someone that's a student of business. However, there's an added thing I have now. I ask the following question: if the company you're working for is going to make a change in technology and the system, are you the person that's going to be the driver, either the co-pilot, or are you going to come along for the ride, or are you going to be fighting it?
Right. Hitting the brakes.
I only want to hire the first or second person. Now, some people are the second, it's not creative. That's what I'm going to hire. And that's what I found when I was going around. So today it's even more so because we could start building something a certain way and all of a sudden you realize, well, this new thing came out. And if you're not ready to pivot, you need to be very, very quick to be able to pivot.
Right. Right. No, it's the truth. And a funny thing that's related to that, I probably don't know what Pegasus does, but just to give you a little sense, because it relates a lot to the things you're talking about, funny enough, in a very, like, the entry level, okay, I mean, that's the purpose of the podcast, but actually very specifically to some of the things you're talking about, which is interesting. So in short, we are creating a new type of higher ed to compete against universities. We call it, higher ed for the AI age, where essentially the students that come to Pegasus, high school student, instead of going to college, we say come to Pegasus. It's 1 year, 15K, and but entirely experiential, and you graduate as what we call a Pegasus, plus the name, which is AI first entry plus employee who has the technical and soft skills of a second or third year employee from day one of their first job. And the type of our first two, we call them career accelerators. Each one's focused on a single career. And our first two are software development and product management. But one that employers have started to talk to us about and ask if we have it is something that we call a product builder. And the product builder is someone who, I guess I would describe it as sort of 2 parts product manager, 2 parts software developer, and 1 part designer. And essentially, they are being turned inwards towards the company, the organization. And so they could work on the product, right? Because they have the ability to be product manager and software developer all in one, but they're turning that talent inwards mostly and saying, hey, talk to our legal department, our HR, our finance, treat them as the customer, figure out their pain points. And then, after you figure out their pain points, develop AI agents, automation, software to help scale us internally. And so, these are people who, have that sort of, like you said, sort of the business talent on the product manager side, the software developer talent, embraces AI, and they use those talents to scale the organizations that they work for. So it's interesting that you kind of laid out these characteristics.
So if I could put it all together for you, and I think you'll. So I have my son. He was in school for computer systems. He's more into tech and all that. And when ChatGPT came out, I called him up and I said, "Hey, you want to know your profession is? Learn everything you can because you're going to teach people how to use ChatGPT." And he tells me, "Why would someone pay me to teach them? They can do it themselves." I said, "Because in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is." Number two is that there's always someone that their time is more valuable than your time. They're willing to pay you for it. And thank God he opened up a very successful company. To give a shout out, Shui, supercharged with AI, and he trains and consults and does. But really, what at the root is, I told him the most valuable position in the world. It's not going to be the ones we hold, CEO. It's what you described. It's called CAO, Chief Automation Officer.
Yeah.
Your job is to go into those that and then do it for multiple companies. But some college kid walks into the executive suite of a company and says, "Guys, you have 100 people here. Even don't want to fire people. Get everyone double production." And I coined a CA. You should do a CAO course.
That's the ultimate, right? It's the bookend of exactly what I'm talking about. You start as a product builder and you keep moving up, and ultimately you're the chief automation officer.
Exactly right.
It's so interesting. And it's interesting too, as you talk about, again, screening for sort of AI aptitude and attitude. And what's funny about that is that there's always been the ability to make yourself more efficient, whether it was with Microsoft Excel or using only keystrokes and not your mouse in order to get work done. There's all these abilities to embrace technology in order to become more efficient. But no one ever screened for that, or at least not in any meaningful way. But now, I mean, you're sort of on the avant-garde of it, but now you're like, you know what? It's so important, the level of productivity that can be brought to the organization, that this moves right to the front of the screening process. Like you said, it's literally, it's a deal killer or not with you, right? This isn't, well, I'd prefer this, or, where on the spectrum are they with this? It's, either you embrace it or you don't. Yes, you could be someone who brings it, or you could be you could be the driver or the co-pilot. But beyond that, if you're not either of those, like you said, it's an immediate no, irrespective of everything else. They could be the most talented technical, not technology technical, but from like
Right.
a brokerage standpoint, or mortgage standpoint, they can be the most technically profound, sound person. But if they're not the driver or the co-pilot, like you said, then you have no interest in them.
Jeremy, if you think about it, go back when you started hiring people that said, I don't have to use Excel, or I don't have to use Google Docs, or I don't have to use a smartphone,
Yeah.
or I don't use
Right.
for business after hours. I'm not connected.
Yeah. Right.
Think about those people that either don't have a job,
right.
or they were forced to adapt.
Yeah, that's a good point. What have you found when looking at and talking to a lot of the early career people? What have you found to be a gap or two that you've consistently seen in this generation of entry level employees?
So the issue is, the gap is that they weren't putting AI in the menu. If they put AI in the resume, they were good.
That's so interesting. And it's, well, the funny thing is, I was going to say it's surprising, but it's not surprising in the sense that colleges, they, all but ban, if not actually ban, the use of AI, which is ironic. I mean, more than ironic, it's tragic, because
Because you know why? They're going to be replaced. What you're doing is going to replace the colleges. I think anyone who goes to school today is nuts, unless you're going for a degree that you have to. If you have to be a doctor, you have no choice.
Right.
I was a big
Exactly.
proponent of college and education. You got to be nuts. You fall behind. 18 years old, get a job, straight out of school,
Yes.
go to a course. Like your thing is at night or
Right.
during the day?
Yeah, it's full time for 1 year.
Okay, so
For 1 year.
But again, you're also teaching
And it's
them.
$15K, and that's
Forget
it.
about the money.
15.
You're also teaching them that this year what they need.
Yes,
Teaching
exactly.
them based on archaic things. Like someone
Right.
said, we don't teach people how to do 2 + 2 anymore. You have a calculator. We have to adjust
Right.
it to that.
Exactly.
I'm
No,
a
that's
huge fan. Go for a course in what you want. You can even use
Yes.
ChatGPT. I want to learn about this. Make me a course.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's so funny that, you're saying all of this, because the reason we do a year is because what we've found is that the universal timeline for mastery, it's pretty much a year. When anybody thinks back to they went to their first job, we all went as zeros pretty much. We didn't know what we were doing because colleges have largely failed us. And pretty much to a man, I don't know that I've met a person who, at around the 12-month mark of their first job, that's when pretty much all of us go, okay, I think I got this now. Not from like a VP level, but from an entry level. Say, okay, I got this, I'm adding value. And that's what, ask any employer, they say the same thing, 9 to 12 months before a college grad, starts to add value. And that's exactly why we made it a year-long program, because it's just, for whatever reason of human nature, it just seems a year of doing. And by the way, we didn't sit in lectures and read textbooks for that year, right, at our employer as we ramped up. We learned to do the job by doing the job. And that's how Pegasix is structured. It's 50 hours a week, every week for 1 year of learning to, do AI first software building by doing AI first software building. There are no lectures or textbooks, right? And it's again, one year, 15K, and you come out this AI first second or third year employee, the equivalent of.
You should give them a certification as CIO.
See,
We heard it
I
here
did.
first. Jeremy,
I
you come
did.
out and send me a message. Ira, we did it. We can do the only CAO. And by the way, if you do it, I'll put a LinkedIn post and say, by the way, finally, this is what you should do. Every college kid should go here.
You know what's funny or what's interesting is that because these kids will probably be just a little too young, although they are going to have the soft skills because everything they're doing, all the building they do over the year is all done in cross-functional teams that we mix up throughout the year. And that way they develop the soft skills as well as the technical skills. I mean, because as you know, soft skills are just as important. And but something that is a little later down the road for our business model, which I think is perfect for the CAO thing, I colloquially call it Pega 7, which is as we grow that replacement for undergrad, then we'll have hundreds, thousands of teams of kids who are learning to build software by building software. And then that makes us the perfect platform to launch Pega 7, where you have the CAO level people. And there's no better way to learn to be a CAO than to actually have to do it, right? Where you are managing the teams of people who are building automation, to automate the automated software that they're building. And, so it's so interesting that you're already there.
This was really great. I think we touched upon, we covered all the bases, in spite of the outbreaks.
I really appreciate you taking the time to hop on. This was both incredibly informative, but also incredibly refreshing. And I would love to, if you're open to, I'd love to stay in touch. Well, Ira, thank you very much for taking the time to join us today on No Entry Level, and have a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you so much. You too. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Bye-bye.